Valorant Champions 2024 is right around the corner, but before that, the Americas teams need to battle it out in the final regional stage to determine who will represent the Americas at Champions. We're back, and things are even crazier than ever with roster changes and the aftermath of Masters Shanghai. This is the final opportunity for teams to reach for international glory. Alpha and Omega groups will have to battle amongst themselves to have one more chance as we head into Champions 2024. NRG, Evil Geniuses, Sentinels, G2, 100 Thieves, Loud, MIBR, Furia, Crew, and Leviatan will all fight to see who is the best team in the Americas. This is the Haters Guide to Valorant Champions Tour, Americas Stage 2. Filho de uma égua, what the hell is Brazil doing? Are you guys checked out? I see you guys made roster moves, and I can't blame you. But I think the main issue with Brazil has nothing to do with Brazil itself. I'll talk more about this in the future when I make a state of the game video later on this year after Champions. But let's get to the roster moves. Bringing in Rich, Pela, and Liazi to MIBR is probably a good move for talent growth. I hope it pans out, but I don't think you guys will be winning right away. Furia, I actually have no clue how this team has managed to look so bad. MW0 is the center of this team for some reason, and I have no clue how that happened or why you guys keep centering it around him. Not saying he's a problem, but he isn't a solution either. I guess getting Exand is good, but lord, you guys need to get on the same page as Nowzer. I mean, oh my goodness, Furia even managed to drop the ball on Pancata so bad that the man had to use the excuse that he wasn't feeling well. I mean, what is this, COVID? At this point, these teams are an open case of I have no clue how things will pan out. Any of these teams winning one match is a much needed improvement from last split, but let's be honest, you're all playing against each other, so someone has to lose and someone has to win. Unless for some godforsaken reason we get the first tie in VCT history. I won't repeat myself about the NRG roster and their past. I've already made a video about that, so if you haven't watched it yet, it's a 22-minute long dissection of their season. Make sure to go check that out. Now, let's talk about the changes that they have made. NRG have brought back FNS, and I'm glad to see him competing again. He's one of my favorite players and my favorite IGL of all time. And while I think he adds great mental strength and strategy to the team, I am still worried about sacrificing firepower. As far as Som, I do think he adds a slight upgrade in terms of firepower, and he is also an incredible player on smokes. And I understand that Som and Finesse are probably a package deal similar to Crashies and Victor. Speaking of Victor, he has been moved to the duelist role, and as we can see by his tracker history, where he is playing majority of Jet and Raze, he's probably going to be slotted into that role where Demon 1 was. But with the newest patch rolling out, I'm hoping that we see him play a lot more Neon, which is proving to be a busted character in Ranked, and hopefully it translates to VCT as well, because Victor has been historically good on Neon when Fracture was in rotation. But can he translate that success on one map to other maps? Well, that's yet to be seen. Crashies, while he has underperformed, I still think has a lot of talent to show, and hopefully he's getting more acquainted with playing Gecko, because that is one of the things that teams that have struggled have historically shown, is that they can't play Gecko. Ethan, well, he can now focus on being the flex player, and I'm all for it. He was fragging out consistently when his teammates weren't. I want to say I have no expectations for this team and that I should remain grounded in reality, but I think as a fan of these players, there's only one truth that I will abide by, and that is NRG are going to Champions, baby! Evil Geniuses. It's like a majority of the community called it out when talking about this team. I will say that even with a lackluster roster, you managed to get some impressive matches versus Sentinels and NRG. Although NRG was more of their own stupidity than anything. No roster moves at all is not a surprise to me. It makes sense that you want to stick to the squad until the end of the season, and I think you already have a relatively strong chance of making playoffs because of the group you're in. MIBR, Furia, Loud, 100 Thieves, and Leviatan. I think their main competition at this point is to beat Loud, but they are also making some moves that we'll talk about later. This squad still remains incredibly lackluster, and I wish they had more than Jawgemo to take him over the line for games. It's going to be tough for them, but I do think that if Potter and company have been working together to improve during the time off, that we can expect some surprises. Have we ever seen a crash out as bad as Sentinels? I mean, I didn't expect them to be super dominant after grinding it out for an entire 6 months, but not even making the playoffs? Come on, man. The loss to Evil Geniuses just should have never happened. Alas, they didn't go to Shanghai, but I still think that this roster is very talented. They just need to find a new groove, and hopefully their trip to Cancun has helped them out. They're going to need it. The Alpha group is going to be a bloodbath since there are so many teams that are solid. Crew and C9 are regular season Andes, and G2 just came off an incredible run at Masters Shanghai. And NRG looked to be revitalized with their new roster moves. One thing that does help them out is their points accumulated through the season, and their tournament wins. At the moment, they're still the leaders in the Americas in terms of championship points, with 9 in total. It would take a monumental collapse for them not to make champions. Remember, for Sentinels, it's more important to win regular season games than it is to make a deep run in the playoffs. Naturally, playoffs comes with winning regular season games, but if they lose or get knocked out in playoffs, I wouldn't sweat it.
I have no idea what will happen to Cloud9. Will they continue their trend of looking like one of the greatest teams in Americas, going near perfect under the leadership of Vanity and Rooney, then completely implode during the playoffs, destined to never make a Masters event? Or will this split be finally where Cloud9 breaks through with their rookie duelist in Oxy, who has instantly looked like a player to build around going forward, frying both on Raze and Jet? So it'll be interesting to see how he deals with the Neon buff, as it just might make him even more explosive for his team. As of right now, Cloud9 sits towards the top of the team's standings, thanks to a stellar Split 1 performance going 5-1, and are really close to clutching one of the top playoff spots. But with them now playing their hardest part of the schedule, their team chemistry and strat book will be tested greatly. But it just might be what the team needs, as when they played a good team in G2 during the knockout round of Split 1 playoffs, they were decimated. And as a fan of this NA team, I don't dare predict how they will do during this split. But all I ask is not to raise my hopes during the unimportant games, only to lose when it matters. But so is the life of a Cloud9 fan.
Cloud9 in the playoffs, choking again. Cloud9 in the playoffs, choking again.
Deus do céu. This team is so frustrating to watch. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Week 1 versus NRG, who wants to play in those conditions? But the rest of the season, there's almost no excuse. How did you lose so much after being a top team? They looked the weakest they have ever looked, and even in the worst version of Loud with Saadhak at the helm, he was able to take the squad to Masters Madrid and at least beat some Chinese teams. But ever since Saadhak handed the reins over to STKJ and Pela as the lead tacticians, it's been a complete and utter mess. 2024 called. It's time to play Gecko. I don't care what Kawanzin has to say about playing him or not. The talent needs to start adapting to the meta, and if you don't, you are going to keep missing international events. Just look at everybody else who refused to move on from the format last year. Fnatic was a prime example of that. Do you want the last bit of hope of the Brazilian region to be snuffed out because of players' reluctance to change? Hell no. Thank God you guys were able to get Pancada, because this team is desperately in need for some change, and after that god-awful split, I think it might be a good move. Although moving Thieves to Duelist is a bit of a gamble. I'm glad that Les didn't actually leave, because that would have left the team in the same position it was before. But with 3 founding members of Loud, I have some faith in a possible comeback.
Well, look who came crawling back, Zeph. Hey everybody, what's up? My name is Kyle from Chill Out Esports, and today I'm helping Zeph out with the Haters Guide to VCT Americas Stage 2 by talking about Crew. Crew have had a very up and down year so far. They've had some very high heights and some very low lows. After bowing out early at kickoff, they were able to go on a very strong run during stage 1, being the top seed of their team heading into playoffs, but they just weren't able to get it done at those playoffs. As I said, they were the top of their group with a 5-1 record, just beating out C9 for that top spot. Having some very impressive stats overall. 11-4 map record, absolutely amazing. 180 rounds won to 137 lost, plus 43. Those are fantastic. But then it all came crashing down when it came to the playoffs to make it to Shanghai. They awaited the opponent of C9 versus G2, G2 being the team that won that, were able to beat Crew for the 3rd time this year, knocking them down to the lower stage where they would face Leviatan and lose that one, because it's not LATAM if it doesn't start with a capital L. Just kidding, of course, LATAM, I feel you guys, don't worry. So what does their stage 2 look like? Well, they start against Sentinels, a team that will be looking to come back from a disappointing stage 1. Maybe they got too comfy and relaxed in Mexico, so maybe Crew can get the jump on them. Then they have Energy, a team that with their roster changes is looking to do a lot better. Then they have G2, a team that they have not been able to beat this year. G2 are this team's kryptonite, it seems. Then they end their split against C9, a team that had the same record as them during split 1. So it begs the question, can this roster do what they couldn't do in stage 1 and make it to Champions? They're definitely going to be in the playoff stage. They already have the record to do it. Of course, these stats carry on from stage 1. So their playoff spot is all but confirmed. They only need like 1 win, basically. Will we see MTA show up again? Is he healthy enough to play, but do they even want to swap him out when he looked like he fit like a glove with this team? This team will be looking to perform well in stage 2 and then be able to not choke in the big moments. They could have beat Leviatan, they could have beat G2, they were not able to do it and it cost them. Hopefully for the LATAM region, we see this team in Seoul and see them perform well. Last time they were at Champs last year, they didn't do very well, but they were able to make it there. So maybe they just love making the last tournament of the year as opposed to the rest. I do have confidence in this team. They have some good shooters on there, so will it all come together and see the LATAM region brought to glory? Anyways, that is my segment. Thank you, Zeph, for having me on. Follow me at ChilloutEsports on YouTube and Twitter and all that good stuff. See y'all in the next thing Zeph asked me to do for him. Have a good one. That was awful. God, why did I wink?
Nothing makes me happier than seeing this org fail. It's clear as day to me and everyone watching that without Aspas, this team is nothing. Once Genji got their shit together, you stood absolutely no chance of beating them. And the next match? Oh my goodness, are you kidding me? 1-13 versus Foot Esports? CNET wasn't even popping off. How did you let this happen? Are you clueless? Like, this doesn't even look like a team. You guys don't even know how to work together. It's a miracle that you guys are even here. You beat T1, a team that arguably got lucky in qualifying, and that is it. That is all you did at Masters Shanghai. Unfortunately, coming back to the Americas, the only threats for them in their group are 100 Thieves and Loud, so they will most likely end up qualifying for playoffs, and if they make it any further, it will all depend on Aspas, and if Com decides not to lurk and die. The roster will not make it past Champions, and I can almost guarantee you that. I sense a complete overhaul coming, and it's more than obvious. Chinga esta organización, pinches falsos.
Thank you, Zeph, for letting me on your video again. And I have to tell you, it's kind of hard to be a 100 Thieves hater. This is a team I used to love when Hiko was on it. And now after 2 years of them underperforming, they finally look like title contenders.
Psych! That's the wrong number!
Well, they did until they faced EMEA's new superpower. They were far from being seen as trophy lifters after that match. They look more like, there's a certain word I'm looking for. What is it?
Pigs?
Ah, yes, that's it. Wilbert himself went a tragic 1 for 14, and somehow Boaster ended up being the most hated IGL from Masters Shanghai, and not the one who was trash talking every single team he met. How the heck as a community we let something like that happen? To be fair, Piglet definitely helped instill confidence in this team.
Corporate needs you to find the differences between this picture and this picture. They're the same picture.
As well as ex-Evil Genius member Styx. However, if you do want to be a hater, then you have another chance to exercise your trash talking. One word, Sentinels. Yeah, I know they already lost to them in split 1. It's basically tradition at this point. However, it looks like Nadeshot, 100 Thieves owner, and TenZ, Sentinels golden boy, may throw down on the console version of Valorant. And to be honest, they both look good on the sticks.
One enemy remaining. Don't insult me. One enemy remaining.
Oh!
What the? Shower.
Get it! Oh, win that shit! Let's go!
Nadeshot already lost 1 exhibition match. 2 would just be hilarious at this point, especially if it's by the hands of a Sentinels player. It would just cement the fact that the Sen organization just owns 100 Thieves. But in all seriousness, 100 Thieves should make a deep run in Split 2 and qualify for champs. Anything else would be a major letdown in my opinion.
I'd almost compare G2 to a Dragon Ball Z character. Every time they kept power scaling week after week, and knew when to take losses and come back stronger. G2 was in dire straits at the start of Stage 1, and even with the roster move of Icy, we were left wondering why. We clearly now see that Icy has a ton of talent, and seems that he gets better and better each match. The core of the guard have also kept up their quality, and Leaf is back to his normal self and even made an international LAN. Americas for G2 started out rough, but then they rebounded, and while their record 3-3 doesn't suggest that they're anything more than mediocre, they showed in the playoffs that they can be one of the top teams in the Americas. At Shanghai, they had to face T1 in a match that was somewhat personal to them, as a former guard member and Saya player was the one playing against them. And they came out victorious. Then they upset Team Heretics, which despite having Patitek as a stand-in, didn't affect them in terms of performance. In the playoffs, they showed how elite their mentals were, and after reverse sweeping Paper X in a situation where it felt like they were ready to bring it home, their rematch versus Team Heretics would be the same story, as G2 had lost the first map and were on the verge of being eliminated on map 2, where they were down 11-2, but the resilience of the team brought the map back and they managed to win 11 in a row. This really was a situation where they said 11 is all they get. Unfortunately, their run in the last weekend of Shanghai was not as successful because they weren't able to get past 10 rounds on any map for the weekend. I was rooting for this team just as much as the next person, but let's be real folks, they choked. They had 2 opportunities to make grand finals and they couldn't win 1 map. And unfortunately, any semblance of a comeback was off the back of hero plays. It was just sad to see, especially because they were the last standing representative of the Americas. Stage 2 for them starts off with Leaf's former team in Cloud9, so we'll see if Masters fatigue is a real thing or not. Stage 2 being the last leg of the tournament is exciting for many reasons. The new patch, the race between teams to qualify for playoffs, and the prospect of this being the last opportunity for some teams to attend Valorant Champions 2024. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave me a like and a subscription and tell me who you're rooting for. Thank you to all the channel members who support the channel: Tax Evasion, Hal Hades, SatXN, Here is John, Juan David Vergara, Juicy J, Wero Air Vintage, No Man Wolves, and Eccles. Thank you for your support, it helps out the channel a lot. And I promise, the loud video is in the works, it's just taking me a while. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.